this podcast. Welcome to In the Service of Others, Who Dares Wins. We're in this series, and I'm privileged to have us join today, Helen Hotai. And this is the perspective from wives, partners of former or current operators. And we hear two podcasts already with Joe and Bill, and they share their experiences as an operator on the front line, operational, going through selection and cycle, and all those things that they would have experienced. But what about the home front? And what about the fires that burn at home and keep the family together while these operators, these men, are off risking life and limb in the cause of country, mostly in the service of others? So in that regard, I am grateful. I am happy to have with us today Helen. Helen, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. It's good to have you here, and it's really cool to get your perspective on the story that Joe shared. And he shared some real deep things, some real interesting things but it's from his perspective, and we know his perspective is the way he hears the way he hears things, the way he says. And
you go away.
You can hear him in the background, all right, just making sure he's editing, I guess, hovering there, but it's all good.
Just make sure, like I said, she doesn't get too much airtime.
Too much airtime. All right, we'll cap this at 4 hours then. How's that? We'll see. But let's start. So I guess it's probably pertinent to start with you, Helen, and your background. So I was wondering if you can just give our listeners a bit of context with regards to your background around-ish the time that you met Joe, and then we'll dive into the real story of how you met Joe. How's that?
Yeah, that's good. So in oh my goodness, I can't remember when I joined the army. I think it was 96.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anyway, I joined the army as a administrator, and then I think about a year later, that's when I met Joe. So I had no intentions of ever joining the army, but I just came across like my sister's enlistment papers, and I just filled them in. I don't know what was going on at that time, but yeah, I just dived in, submitted the papers, and I think less than a year later, I was in the army. So that's how I ended up there. So it's like, but yeah, I just think, oh man, I know that I was supposed to meet Joe. So there would have been no other way for me to meet him other than joining the army, because I was such a home girl. I'd probably still be living at home reading books if I hadn't joined the army. Yeah, and I wouldn't be with this guy that I'm with today.
This guy.
So that's how that's the story of how I joined the army and met my husband.
So what was it about the army? What was it about the army? Because you were there in the army for...
I was there for just under 5 years.
5?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot longer than I remember.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was it about the army that either you enjoyed or take Joe out of the equation for now, what was it about the army?
Well, initially I joined because I wanted to serve a mission for my church, so be a missionary, and that's about 18 months. And I thought if I could join the army, that would be like the perfect testing ground, because I knew that army people weren't very religious. So I thought if I could reach some hearts that way, get some practice in, some prep, I thought it would be really good prep for my mission. But I didn't end up serving a mission. I think Joe was my mission, finding him. But no, it was such a great experience, like just meeting so many different, personalities. Good times.
Would it be fair to say that you were completely out of your comfort zone?
Yes. Yes, very. Because, you live in this sheltered Christian home, and then, you hop off the bus and they're swearing at you like, oh my goodness, like, I speak like that here? Yeah. And that's like normal language, military language. So that was a real shock for me.
Wow. I do remember we went to, Rachel and I, and Eve and Dinah, I think your sisters,
Yeah.
went to your passing out parade.
Yeah.
I think. Yep. When that happened, and there was from what I remember. I mean, this is going back a while. I remember there was definitely a different. Aura is not the right word, but there's a different vibe about you. Yeah,
Really?
yeah, there was. Because I remember you were sitting in the seat and your shoelace, or your bootlace, sorry, had come undone, and Eve tried to turn it into a bow. And you told her off. It's like, we don't do bows in the army. You tuck it in at the top. I remember that because that was kind of funny. But it was just a different vibe. You're still the same. It was just a different vibe.
Yeah, I think I was just, what's the word? More disciplined.
More disciplined.
Yeah, very disciplined. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was disciplined before, but it was like a different level discipline.
Oh, so how did you find then? Because I wanted to explore this because I think this is important to set the scene going forward. Is how did you find, like, when you're in your basic training and you're learning your firearms drills and you're learning squad tactics and you're learning all that sort of stuff, really to take on, engage the enemy and to like wipe the enemy out. Right? That's a different mindset to a Christian home where you come from, where you're reading your diary, reading your books and writing in your diary.
Yeah.
How did you connect that together?
Yeah, that was, this is going to sound really dumb, but because I was going to be an administrator, I was like, what do I need to learn weapons? Like, I just would go through the lessons and I wasn't really listening because I thought, it doesn't apply to me. And I just thought, yeah, but I was in for a big shock because then we had a test and they were like, you don't know anything. Like, we've just instructed you on how to use, these weapons and pull them apart and all the safety drills, and you haven't taken any of it in. And that's when I actually clicked. I was like, I'm supposed to learn this stuff. I'm not just going to be sitting in an office, drinking my Milo and eating biscuits. So yeah, I was like, that was a real wake up call. It's like, wow, I have to actually use these weapons. So I was like, better switch on. Yeah. So. Yeah, I don't know.
So when you did that thought ever cross your mind that, hey, I might actually have to use this weapon for real? Yeah.
So it's like, well, they've trained me. If I need to use it to defend, myself, then I'll have to use it. Or actually, situation, maybe I'd be like, yeah, just shoot me. I don't want to kill you. Just kill me. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh dear, God. So after you got at a basic training, you were then posted where?
I was posted to Linton Camp in Palmerston North.
Linton Camp, Palmerston North.
Yep.
All right. So this leads us on to this question then. So we know that you've got an army background, military background. You're well aware of the joys of handling weapons and squad tactics and all the things that come with that training. You move into your role as an administrator, but you're still around battalion, you're still around infantry and all those sort of things. You probably still have to do all those sort of army stuff to keep yourself qualified, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you bump into Joe. How did you guys first meet?
So our initial meeting, so each unit had basketball teams, and it was you had to go and play. I wasn't actually in my unit's basketball team, but so I was in a transport unit, and the girls, they're pretty good basketball players, but they were out. I think they must have been out on a task. So who was left? No one else but me and my other friend. I ended up playing in that basketball game for our unit, and that's how I met Joe. I didn't really meet him, but we just played against each other, our units. I don't know if we introduced ourselves, but when you play against somebody like a sport team, it's almost like you know each other, so you say hi to each other if you see each other at the gym or wherever. So that was the first sort of meeting, I suppose you could say.
So I need to ask this question. So was it you or him that gave the googly eyes?
Googly eyes? What googly eyes?
The googly eyes.
Oh, you mean who made the first move?
No, more like did he look across the court and go like that, or was that you?
I think it was him.
All right, since he's not in the video, all right, it's him.
He's not. Yeah, I'll just say I think it was him. Because he's like, yeah, I remember that time. I was like, yeah, I sort of remember it, but it wasn't really like, to me it was like, oh, he's just another good-looking guy. Like, being in the army, there's like, you're just surrounded by all these good-looking guys. Of course, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, he's good-looking. But, that's as far as it goes for me.
So the continuation of the diary. All right, very good.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, Helen has a YouTube channel called The Diary Reader by Helen Hotai.
Yeah.
So it's a really good watch. And Joe often makes a guest appearance, quite often, in that.
Yeah, I can't get rid of him.
So how did you guys first meet then? You first meet, but how did you get to start to talk and that sort of thing, and start the seeds of a budding romance?
Yeah. Okay, well, so I was, I used to go to the gym, I think straight after work.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the army gym. So, I saw him, he saw me, I'd just say, oh, hey, because, I think that just because I've met somebody once, they're like my friend. So I just say hi to everybody. So, so we used to just be at the gym at the same time and just say hi. But I never thought anything of it till later. He told me later. But he was like, oh, I used to time it so that, we would be there at the same time. They'll be, oh, okay. And then it'd be like, and I was lifting all these heavy weights, and I was like, oh, sorry, I didn't, I was there to work out. I wasn't actually there to perv or anything. And he's like, oh, don't lie, you were looking at me lifting all those weights. And I'm like, yeah, I actually wasn't. I was actually there to do my workout. Yeah.
So that must have led on to obviously conversations and who asked who out?
Yes.
Let's explore this.
It's normal, in the army, that, all you and your friends in the barracks or your single friends, you'd go out, to the clubs in the weekends. So I met, I used to see him at the club. And again, he's just another guy. But then, I just went up to him one night and I was like, oh, hey, do you want to dance? And, the answer, the answer that I love to give is, he was like, yeah, nah. And he was like, no, you have to tell the whole story. It wasn't like, nah. And I'm like, no, there's yes and no. And your answer was no, which is nah, no. Yeah, so he tried to he's like, no, but then I said, come back on another song, because apparently he didn't like the song. I was like, yeah, okay. So, I was like, yeah, I'll just go back and ask him for a dance, later on.
And did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I'm a very persistent person, so I'm like, if I said I'll come back, then I'll come back and ask you for another dance. Yeah, but you know what, to be honest, I think if I hadn't asked him for that second dance, I probably wouldn't have, we wouldn't be together today. Wow. Somebody else. Yeah, but it was meant to be him.
Perhaps that's an example of the butterfly effect, and one small act like that has massive ramifications for, in some ways that you didn't even realize. You wouldn't even think about. I mean, the story that Joe tells is obviously a little bit different, but because again, this is your show, this is your time. We'll leave it exactly like that. So you've got to meet, and you're starting to again the budding romance and so forth. But when did Joe first, I guess, drop that piece of knowledge that say, look, hey, I'm going to go out for the SAS?
Yeah, not long after actually. So the night that I asked him for a dance, the next day, I rang him and said, oh, should we catch up? And so it wasn't even long after that, that first night that we, danced, and then we pretty much started going out the next day, as boyfriend, girlfriend. And then, so he had shared with me his plans that, he intended on going to join the SAS, and, the early stages of our dating, he did a lot of training. Mm-hmm. Which was fine. I understood that, why he needed to do all of that. So I didn't have a problem with that.
So what was going through your head? So, I mean, through your mind, SAS, he's trying out for that. How did that make you feel?
I think because I'd never intended to, early stages, I just thought I wouldn't want to commit to an army guy, only because of the sort of life that they live. Like, you know, a lot of them, you're always away from home. And I picked up, you know, as I was serving as an administrator, that there were a lot of, you know, married couples that were having problems, you know, marriage problems because they're away, and I don't know, communication and just everything else. And I just thought, you know what, I don't want to be married to that. I don't want to have the problems that they're having. Yes, but yeah, and then I ended up with Joe, and I just thought, you know, we can make this work. Yeah.
Why?
Well, Joe was my first boyfriend, and I was his first girlfriend. So, you know, it was easy for me to stay faithful to him, and, you know, for him it was, well, so he says it was easy for him to be faithful to me.
Wow.
Yeah, but yeah, I think in the army, yeah, I don't know, yeah, I just leave it at that.
Okay. Yeah, and I understand. I get that it's a challenging environment, and I wanted to explore that a little bit because, you know, it's like, I mean, you've been together now for a while.
Yeah,
How
we have
long?
actually. 18,
wait.
22, yeah, almost 25 years going on.
25 years? Wow. So yeah, so it stood the test of time through that, and it's obvious it wasn't perfect, like all
Yeah,
relationships
definitely. Yep.
go ups and downs, and we'll explore some of that a little bit later on. So at the start, he drops that. He says, "Hey, look, I'm going after the SAS. I am training hard for this." What else did he share about that? Did you have an understanding what the SAS was all about at that stage?
Yeah, I did actually, because we had a few girls that used to talk about it a lot. So I was like, oh yeah, okay. You know, they live this pretty dangerous life, and hardly ever home, but they're looked at as heroes. Like, you know, people in the army like really look up to them and have a lot of respect for what they do.
Because there was one operator at your passing up parade. I remember he was standing behind us. Yeah, he had his Sandy beret on and everything, and just watching. But he had a kind of I don't know whether he had a smile on his face or whatever, but you could tell people noticed.
Yeah, they would. Yeah. I wouldn't have had no idea at the time.
So when Joe started saying, "Hey, look, okay, I've got selection coming up. I'm going up for selection." You know, and this is starting that journey towards, like, I want to be an operator for Joe. All right, again, what were some of the thoughts going through your mind with regards to him going selection? And we'll talk about cycle in a second.
Yeah. I was, you know, I supported him because I knew it was something that he really wanted to do. And he did share with me, it's, you know, the main reason why he joined was he was looking at getting into the SAS. So yeah, I was supportive of that, and I was like, yeah, go for it. I'll still be here. But I just thought, you know, with a long distance relationship, you know, this is our first relationship, and then for it, you know, possibly to go long distance, we did discuss that.
Okay, so you talked that through.
Yeah. So I can't remember. Oh, I think I just said, oh, well, you know, maybe it's going to end because, you know, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to, you know, maintain that long distance relationship. And then I think we just like, why don't we just try it and see, like, you know, we'll give it a go, see if it works. Like, yeah, okay. Why not?
So you gave it a crack, yeah, and he's going through selection, and then he gets selected to go on to cycle. So how did you feel?
Yeah, I was excited for him. I was like, yeah. You know, you worked so hard, and to get this far, you know, it's not easy, like, to get as far as you have. So yeah, I was very supportive and happy for him. But at the same time, I would have been like, oh, I'm going to miss him if he gets in, like, you know. Yeah.
Was there any stage, like, during those early stages that you thought, nah, I don't want him to do this, come back?
No, like, from memory, no, only because I knew it was something that he wanted to do, so I wasn't going to hold him back. So, yeah.
That's rather interesting, because it sounds to me like you've got a rather open mindset to these things, and it's I wouldn't say whatever will be, but it's like, let's give it a crack, let's see what happens, let's be open about this, and try it and just roll with a lot of it.
Yeah. Roll
So
the
that you rolled the punches, yeah. So I guess that must have helped in some way with dealing with, because this is your first kind of, like I said, first boyfriend, girlfriend, and now
I know.
now he's gone away. It's like, dude.
And I was such a sook too. Oh my goodness, how embarrassing.
So did you cry every night when he was
Yes,
gone?
I did. I was one of those. I read through some of my diaries and I was like, oh my goodness, how drama am I? I was like, just go and do some work instead of thinking of this guy all the time and crying yourself to sleep.
Oh gosh.
I know, shame. But I'm sure there's other women that, I don't know, maybe they've had the same experience and, you know, I shouldn't make fun of it because, you know, at the time you are going through, you know, some hard times.
And this is a good point, actually, because we I guess we're joking about this now because we've known each other for a while, and our families and things, of course. But for others, I mean, that must have been tricky. I mean, perhaps you would have seen other partners around you that, with their dealing with their husbands or wives or boyfriends or girlfriends or what have you, their partners, and they're separated. So, I mean, you must have seen the impact on them in some way, whether they're in the army or whether they're civilian.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, you know, when I used to live in the barracks and a lot of my friends, you know, they had boyfriends, and if they went away on, like, an exercise, you know, they'd really miss them, but I don't think they cried. Well, I don't know. Yeah, it's like they're only just gone on an exercise. But I can't really speak, like, at that time for, you know, what the wives were going through with the children, because I was, you know, still young at that time. Not even 20, I think, or maybe maybe on 20 at that stage.
Yeah.
But, you know, not having children at that time and being single and free, it would have been very different, you know, my situation compared to, you know, one of the married wives with kids at home.
Yeah, I can imagine. So you've just gone 20. Joe's just gone 20 or something. That's right. So you're still very young, right?
Yeah.
And then Joe shared in his interview, and he shared it quite freely, and he's been quite raw and frank about it. But there was that time during during cycle, where he had an altercation that caused quite a bit of angst, not only for him but for the other person as well.
Yeah.
What were your feelings with that?
Yeah, I just thought, man, like, what are you doing? That's what I thought, you know, when he told me. I never shared them with him. So that is so stupid. Like, you know, you don't go out drinking while you're on a course and then getting into a fight. You know, I understand where he was coming from and where the anger came from. But, you know, I was a bit sad because now, like, you know, his career's on the line because of this mistake that he's made. Yeah, so I was disappointed, and I was also sad for him because, you know, he'd worked so hard to get to where he was, and then for this to happen. So yeah, I was really feeling for him, like, just like, you know, if we could go back in time, you know, you wouldn't be like, this is me thinking back in time, but now that I look at things, I think, you know, things happen for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the adversity that we face can sometimes either make us or break us or shape us. Yeah,
propels us to a different direction.
Yeah. So Joe shared this, and again, he's been very open about it. So there's nothing new with that context, but I'm really keen to just dive in a little bit more around your thought process, because you're separated. So this, I'm not sure how long you were separated for. So we're on cycle now. So this is months.
Oh yeah, a year.
Yeah, a whole year. All right, so it's a whole year. So so everything is long distance. I assume there may have been you able to meet face to face a couple of times, perhaps.
Yeah, I think it was only a couple of times in that year that we were able to catch up, and that wouldn't have been for long. Maybe, I don't know, a couple of days, maybe if we were lucky.
So how did you keep in touch during that time?
So we had the old landline.
That one, or the push button one?
It was so each floor, like in the rooms, you know, you had your own phone. So I was pretty much on that. I was probably the only one that used that phone. The poor girls must have come out of their rooms and they would have seen that I was still on there, and they must have been thinking, "Oh, hurry up and get off the phone."
I want to ring my boyfriend. What did he do?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So, because like I guess you've shared with us your not only your experiences up to here and just the way you're thinking, but I think the sense that's coming through is that, look, I'm pretty open to trying things, and I'm pretty even with this, but then this happens, and Joe gets angry, and he's this is happening, and the potential to derail his career, as you said, it can be there. It's real, it's a real thing, But did that raise any potential thoughts, alarm bells in your head, perhaps about him?
I think at that stage, I was still getting to know him, stage, but I did come to find that he is very stubborn, very unrelenting, stubborn, just very hard sort of personality.
Yeah. So and so I'm going to fast forward a little bit with this one. So he's stubborn. You've recognised that. You're getting to know him. How do you blend with that? Because it's obvious to me, and again, it's just me, that you complement each other really, really well, and you seem to balance each other out in many different ways. How did you learn to do that amongst all of this that's happened? Not just the early stages, but from then to now.
You just, I suppose you just, as you learn and grow together, you're able to accept each other's, I suppose, weaknesses and faults. And, if you love someone, you're not going to leave them because, you're sick of them, or, there's a weakness that is really annoying you. You just hang, you hang in there, and things do get better. Things get better.
Would you say it's a combination of you, your experiences, your upbringing, and just the way you view it or approached your relationship?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I would describe myself as a very patient person. Not like really, really patient, but a lot more patient than what Joe is. So if we had the same personalities, we would have been done after maybe a month. But, like you said, we contrast each other. So what he might lack in, I might be strong in. What I might lack in, he's strong in. So we're able to, I suppose, fill each other's gaps. And at the same time, because we love each other, you're going to be there for each other. And regardless of how annoying, he is at times, or how annoying I am at times, that love is able to, overpass or overcome that weakness.
Did that come quickly? The love that you guys had? Did that evolve? It evolved? Yeah?
I suppose, because in the beginning, everybody's always lovey-dovey and, you're blind to whatever faults there are. It's not until later you're like, oh, man.
No. So, so it stood the test of time. That's the main thing. It stood the test of time so far.
Yes, yeah.
Very cool.
But I did pick up early on that, his stubbornness, and I did recognise that would be a challenge in this relationship moving forward.
Especially when he gets into this, and this is the part now that he's had this altercation. There's this potential prison sentence that's hanging over him. He's trying to deal with cycle, and he's got a long distance relationship with yourself. All these things are in play with him, but you're on the periphery of it, and I mean that respectfully. You're on the periphery of it. It's like there's only so much I can do because I'm here and you're there. Right.
And that was the times when we're just poor little soldiers. Like, we don't have much money to be flying to see each other every weekend. That's a lot of money back then. And I didn't have a car. He didn't have a car. Not that he had time to even travel all the way to Palmy. So it was very.
So when he was sent back to battalion and came back to Palmerston North, did you notice a change in him, a difference?
Yeah, definitely. He was really down. I wouldn't say depressed, but he was angry. He didn't want to be there. He wanted to be, up in Auckland and with all the boys and doing whatever they, things that they do up there. And I could tell he felt like he was really hard done by what had happened. But, at the same time, I was like, well, you're the one that got yourself into the situation. So you can't go blaming everybody else for, where you are right now.
Did you tell him that?
No. That's what I was thinking. Like, you can't, you have to take responsibility for what you've done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then, was it around that time that you decided to make it official and tie the knot?
Yeah, true that.
Was it?
Yes, yep. So we were married, I think it's November the 17th.
You think? So sometime soon is your wedding anniversary.
It's okay, it doesn't matter what date it was.
Same
What
thing.
date was it, darling? He's standing there like staring at me. 17th of December.
December? You missed a whole month.
Well, maybe I wanted to get married earlier, see?
All right.
December was too long.
All right. So you get married. He's come back. You got all this happening. I mean, it's actually quite. If you think about it and just pause and reflect, that's actually quite a whirlwind of activity, emotion.
Yeah.
That's happening. And then he goes, "Oh, let's go to Australia." Well, I'm not sure if that's exactly how. But how did he drop that bomb? How did that come out?
You know what? To be honest, like he had prepared me. Like when he had left, probably before he left Auckland, like he was already hinting that he was looking at joining the Aussies. Yeah, so it was good because then it conditioned me to start, preparing in my mind that there's a possibility that we would be moving to Australia.
Oh, so it wasn't just like, okay, we're going now. It was like you had some lead time to prepare for that.
Yeah. So just him dropping hints, I knew to expect that, he'd be, that he would say, yep, let's go to Australia. I knew that was coming.
And you were happy with that? You were okay with that?
You know what? To be honest, I cannot remember, but I was very supportive of what he wanted to do. So I would have just been like, yeah, okay. I'm pretty easygoing most of the times.
So, how did that move happen? So I know Joe's talked about he's gone through the process. He's applied to the Australian Army and so forth, but it wasn't like, okay, we'll all shift over at the same time. There was like a staggered shift.
Yeah,
and
I
think Soraya was...
So Soraya was born then. That's our daughter. So I'm pretty sure he left, it would have been like at the end of, I don't know, maybe 2000? The end of 2000? And then he had been posted to East Timor for 6 months. So you're
still in New Zealand?
Yeah. So we didn't move till the following year, I'm pretty sure, because then he went to do the selection and the cycle. So it was no use us going over because we wouldn't even see him.
So how did that make you feel, though? Now it's different. You said before, like you were single in the barracks and carefree. It's like, if it doesn't work, see you later. All right, we'll deal with that. But now it's different. You're married. You have a newborn
child,
baby, and now he's away.
Yeah, that was really hard, eh? I mean, it didn't help that I was quite an emotional person anyway. Like, I'm a real sook. And, so him being away and then having a baby that she wasn't very settled, and maybe it was because I wasn't settled. So she used to cry a lot, which really stressed me out. So it was stressful being a new mum that, I had no idea what I was doing. And then having my husband, like, in another country, I think we were pretty much apart for like a year, like on and off. But yeah, it was hard. I struggled. It wasn't easy. Like, I found it really hard.
Did you find yourself ever questioning?
Yeah.
What's happening?
I think there was lots of times where I was like, I don't want to be a mum. I don't want to be a wife. I just want to be like, have time to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever think that, like, Joe, why can't you be a cop, or why can't you be a firefighter or something?
I think there were lots of times where I was angry at him, and I think that was just because, I was going through stuff, as a felt like a single mum.
Yeah. That's okay.
Joe, can
You're
you
right.
send me some tissues?
That's okay. All right. I'll edit that part out. Yeah. You just say when you're ready, Hal. It's all good.
Yep. So I'm trying really hard not to cry. Because I know when I cry, I'm like, it takes ages. And I'm like, I don't want to be in this interview for ages.
We got a 3-hour interview, 2 hours of crying.
No, but yeah, I think it's right to show some tears because it shows that I'm human.
That's true. That's true. It's all good. I mean, it's entirely up to you. We'll talk about this after. I mean, whether you want to...
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay.
You good?
Yeah. Good.
All right. So, I can imagine there's a whole bunch of emotions that you would be feeling, and you've expressed some of those already where it was Joe's away. And I can imagine that's a tough time because now, he's gone and he's deployed, but not just from New Zealand. He's gone deployed from Australia. So it's not only just okay. Well, you're still part of the same country. I mean, New Zealand, where this is our homeland, etc. So I can see you've gone over there to Timor, but it's not that he's gone now, jumped across the ditch. He's in Australia. He's the Australian Army. He's now deployed, and just the emotions around it, particularly at the time with a brand new baby. I can imagine how confronting that could be and challenging that would be emotionally in between a relationship. But I guess the question I would further to that would be, how'd you work your way through that? What were some of the things that you did to help? Because I suspect there are other partners out there, other wives, husbands that are going through or will go through something similar.
How did I get through? Well, you definitely need
It's okay.
and you can just edit out all these pauses.
It's okay.
Just having family support is really important, and the other thing for me personally was my faith. It's you're not always going to have your family around, so having something to hold on to, for me helped to keep me in line, not to fall off or. I was supposed to say sane, really. That's what helped to keep me sane was my faith.
I think that's beautiful because there's an anchor. Family's an anchor, faith is an anchor. And I imagine if it wasn't there, how even more challenging, even more so.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. But it must have been, I guess we'll flip this just a little bit. It must have been just a positively happy time, overwhelming emotion, perhaps. Maybe I'm just priming this a little bit. But when you were able to actually move, because I kind of remember around that time, because I think our kids were young as well, so there's a lot of that family support. It's the whole "it takes a village to raise a child" sort of thing. So it was all there with that, but it still doesn't negate how you're feeling. I mean, it doesn't matter how much family support that you get. It's important and it's valuable, and it's just without question, but you're still the one having to live that experience of having your husband away. But when you first were able to meet up again one more time, but for that time, how was that? What was that like for you?
Oh, it was just, you're just over the moon, because, you become one person, like, you're half of each other. So when you're in the presence of each other, it's like you're full again. So it's a wonderful feeling. Complete. You feel complete.
Yeah. Did the thought ever cross your mind, because he's away in Timor, you're feeling all these things, that at that stage something could happen to him?
Yeah, definitely. So just, and being ex-army as well, you know to expect that, if you're going to go away, there's a high possibility that you might not come back. SAS or not, whatever, wherever you go, like Timor. There were people, well, one guy that I remember, that had been killed. He wasn't even in the SAS. Like, you don't have to be in the SAS to worry that your loved one might not come home. Yeah,
that's tough. So then he's as he shared in his interview, he served with 4R, and he was commander, was a recon platoon, I think he said. So it's not like he's hiding in the background.
Yeah.
Not like he's in mortar platoon. I'm just throwing that one in, Joe. Just letting you. Sorry. One of his early interviews, but he's actually out in that front line. So that's that first real taste of being operational, putting that training to use from his perspective, and of course at your end, you're keeping the home fire going, and you're starting to deal with the start of a budding family. So then you meet up. There's a joyous occasion, and I remember some photos that you guys had sent across from Sydney, because you were based in Sydney at the time. And then he goes, "All right, I want to do the SASR selection cycle. Now what are you feeling? What are you thinking then?"
Yeah, well, I already knew that, him joining the army, that he would be trying out for, the selection and getting into the cycle. So I already knew, the whole intention of moving to Australia was to eventually join the SASR here in Australia. Yeah, so that was no surprise to me. And, we both know what Joe's like. It's, you're not going to settle for the bare minimum. It's like he wants to go as far as he can, and in his case it was like he wanted to be the best in the elite SAS.
So he goes out, he does that, and of course, if we know the story, he makes selection and cycle. All right, so now he gets to that point where he gets the badging ceremony. So I'm assuming you were there even before then. Yeah.
Even before then, I was like, oh no, we're going to have to go through all of this again. I went through it, not that I went through physically, but emotionally.
Yeah.
We're apart for a year now. You're going to do it again, and we've got children, a child at the time, and I just thought, okay, I'll just go with it.
So how long? I mean, you're away for a year. Yeah, he's in Timor. He's in Australia. You get to meet up again, and then he has to go away again. I mean, what was it?
Yeah, so, we already knew that it was a waste of time going over. Don't go over until he's going to be posted. So I think we went over in Jan, and then we were in Perth with him by, I think, April, May.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that.
So what was that like for you? I mean, you've gone from Sydney, and I know you've got sisters in Sydney. Now you go across to Perth, and there's no one.
No one. Yeah, that was so lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you're the wife of an SAS operator, it's almost like you're an operator too now, because for me, I didn't really go anywhere. I didn't like go and meet the neighbours because I wanted to avoid like the questions like, you know, oh, your husband's in the army. Like, what does he do? Like, I'm not a very good liar. So I'm just going to stay in the house and avoid any questions.
He's a cook. Yeah, that's what he does.
Yeah, I know, because they'll be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was hard because, you know, now you got no friends. Did I have any friends to begin with? I can't remember. But yeah, so it's just you and your two little kids.
So you got 2 kids at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, you don't have any family. Like, you're in Western Australia, which is, you know, half a world away from NZ and Sydney. So yeah, it was just felt really foreign for me. It was like, oh, so lonely here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, I didn't mind it.
you didn't mind it.
Like later on, I didn't mind it. But
I see. Yeah.
initially, it was like, just felt so isolated.
So fast forward just a little bit. I mean, in your later years in Perth, even post army for Joe, or post regiment for Joe, I assume that you felt a lot more comfortable with your space, your surroundings, your friends, and yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that comfort came once he had left the SAS, because now you got freedom. Like, you can talk to people and not worry, like, if they're going to ask you, oh, like, whereabouts is your husband serving in the army, sort of thing. It was like, you know, oh, so your husband was in the army. It's like, yeah, he was. And that was it. Like, you know, yeah.
Is there your reluctance to say what Joe did or where he was? Is that part of security thing?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. So, you know, as a wife, you don't say anything. Like, yeah, you just don't.
I do remember that one time, I think it was just before Iraq, somewhere around that time, and you must have rung home back to NZ, you know, to 27, back to home, and you said something along the lines, and a recollection of, you know, keep Joe in your prayers. I can't tell you what's happening, but keep Joe in your prayers. Yeah. And I mean, you can see what's all over the news. I mean, you could tell. I mean, it was kind of obvious, but you didn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't obvious, right? Yeah. So you didn't give anything away other than say, just keep Joe in your prayers. Right? So I guess now what I want to get into is, actually, before we even get into that, I'm going to go back. I just want to go back one step, and this is, Joe's gone through selection cycle. Yeah, he's done it. This is the second time he's done it. Now he gets the actual badging ceremony. You know, so he gets to wear the beret and stuff. I assume you were there for that?
No, we weren't.
You weren't? Oh, no.
I was talking about that last night, because it would have been at the end of the year, and me and Sarai didn't move over till Jan, like the next year.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was like, oh my goodness, he would have been there, like, you know, didn't have his mum there, didn't have me there. His friends would have thought, are you actually married? Are you like a freak?
So he's looking around just like his one parcel? He's looking around? Yeah. For those that don't know, you have to watch Joe's interview, and it's in the second session, I believe. You need to watch that one to understand that one. All right, let's move. Let's jump back into where we are. So now Joe is badged. He's an operator. So that obviously has a different perspective on things. The pucker factor must just ramp up now that you know that Joe is now a badged operator. He is now assigned to a squadron, and all those things that go with it, right? Mm-hmm. First of all, before he's deployed or he's gone operational, you know, he's doing the training. What was that like at home? You know, with your husband, because you're in the same city. Right? Yeah.
Yep. It was like I couldn't believe, like, wow, we're actually together. Like, we're in the same country, in the same house. But then it's like, but you're never there. Like, that was the reality. Like, he was never home. And then when he was home, like, he'd leave early in the morning, like when they were, like, you know, in camp. He'd leave early in the morning, come home late, and then what is he doing? He's in the garage prepping all his stuff, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, you just got home from work and you're still doing more work and more work. It's like rolling my eyes thinking, you've got a family here, like, give us some time as well.
So
But at the same time, I understood that was just part of the job. Like, if you're going to marry somebody who's in the SAS, then expect that they'll be gone, for long periods. Expect that even when they are home, that they'll probably be still working long hours, like all the training that they need to do. So, I knew that.
Because I imagine his mindset would be, and again, this is just conjecture, but I imagine his mindset is focused really on making himself or preparing himself so that he can be the best that he can be. You've already alluded to this. He wants to be the elite.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not only that, like, they rely on each other. Like, their lives are in each other's hands, so they can't afford to, be complacent in any aspect of their training. It has to be full on.
Was your feeling? I know you're supportive. It's just so obvious the way you talk and how much you love and support Joe. But would there be times that you go, man, dude, can you just stop, checking that pack or your rations or whatever it is that's in the garage? Can you just come and sit down and let's talk or have breakfast or I don't know, dinner or something?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I think now, I'm sure there would have been many times, but me being who I was at the time, it would have just been in my head, like saying that, but not out loud to him, because I probably wouldn't have wanted to, I don't know, maybe be like that annoying, nagging wife. Maybe. Or maybe I just didn't want to make him angry. Not that he got very angry. I mean, if he did get very angry, his angry was just not talk. Just remove himself and not talk.
Well, it's more than interesting. That's not the right word, and I can't think of a better word for it, but just seeing the insights from the other side. I mean, we see in the post that we've put up so far with in this series, you see people jumping out of planes and you see them with weapons and you hear them the stories about being operational and all that real cool stuff, right? But behind the scenes where it's real, that must be just incredible as you relive that, and we've experienced some of that already. So I really appreciate that, Helen, the rawness that you've brought to it. So let's, I guess, go forward a little bit. So Joe's there, but he's not there, but he's there.
Yeah.
As much as he can, and then he gets, I think they're called orders to move, or something similar to that, maybe. And something big is about to kick off, and this is what we've just talked about a few minutes ago. So, and this is Iraq. So he gets that order. He gets the preparation to move, and he's doing in that preparation phase. So, what's going through your mind now? Because this is not regular infantry. This is not, and no disrespect infantry, no disrespect to regular force, right, or any branch. This is the pointy air. These guys can go in, and it's going to be real because it's right at the beginning, and it's not going to be a happy situation for anybody.
Yeah.
So, again, what were your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions with that?
I would have been very concerned for my husband because, again, if they go, there's a possibility that you'll never see them again. And, so as a wife, I'd be having all those emotions going through my head. Like, my husband's going to go, if he doesn't come back, I'm going to be like a single mum raising, these 2-3 children on my own. Those are the sorts of feelings that go through my head, but just being really concerned for his safety. And then not only that, it's, if he does come back, there's going to be, all this trauma that, they carry in their heads and they don't actually share. Like, they can't share it with you. So those are other things that I'm also aware of that's going to happen when they come back, because there's going to be a lot of things that they see that obviously they can't talk about. And Joe being Joe, he won't want to go see a psychiatrist or psychologist or whatever. But I mean, they have that anyway, like when they come back from missions and whatever, they see psychs all the time. But yeah, sometimes I think, they know what to say to get the psych off their back, sort of thing, and then they go home and they carry that burden with them.
What about you?
Me?
Yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I think I'm the one that needed a psychologist. But yeah, I didn't have family, and then again, you couldn't really talk to your family about stuff as well, just because of the nature of, not that I had many details, but you just didn't talk to your family about anything to do with your husband's work. So for me, in order for me to cope with that, again, having that faith, my faith, and also writing in my diaries. So it was like the diary was a person, so I could just write whatever I wanted, not be judged. I could say whatever I wanted, without making my husband angry or mad or, resent me for whatever I was feeling. So yeah, that was a really good outlet for me, was writing my diaries.
Wow. So just before this starts kick off with Iraq, so he's getting, I can imagine his mindset is about preparation, and you're supportive of that. But I'm wondering, with yourself and the way you're feeling and coping with this, is this, how do I phrase this? Is this something that you wish wouldn't happen? Wish that he wasn't doing this? Wish that, hey, why can't we be normal? Normal, whatever that is to somebody. Yeah, was that something that ever crossed your mind?
To be honest, I can't actually remember, but if I try and put myself back, many years ago, and, being a young mum at the time, not feeling like a very good young mum at the time, I'm sure I probably would have been resenting, why are you going away at this time? We've got these young kids, you need to be home being a father to them. I'm sure I would have probably had those thoughts in my head, but at the same time, I would have thought, okay, well, this is what he wants to do, so just support him. But at the same time, I'm sure I would have been thinking, we've got a family that we need to, raise together.
Did you find you were praying a lot?
Yeah, definitely. Yep. I would have been praying. Oh, well, especially when he was in Iraq, I was, praying more than once a day. Let's just say that. But also, I had the TV on, probably the whole day, because I feel like, I'm pretty sure the news was on pretty much the whole day over that period. So, because we don't really get any information, probably unless, somebody's died, you get pretty much all the news from the news.
Yeah, you see sometimes in the movies, in particular, I mean, the Hollywood movies, the military films, army films, whatever, and you see that someone's passed away, so you see somebody dressed up, a chaplain and what have you, in a uniform. Did you, I'm not sure what it's like at that time, but did you kind of half expect something like that to happen, somebody like that? Were you kind of one eye at the door?
Yeah. So that's just the sort of person I am. I will always have the worst case scenario in my head, because it prepares me mentally. So, I would have had to prepare myself, there's a possibility that your husband won't come home. So, I had to do that.
So communications, as Joe pointed out in his interview, was, his conversation was that it was no sat phones, it was just letters and stuff like that. He mentioned that he had written a letter, perhaps two. Do you still have those?
Yeah, I do actually. I saw some, back in the day when they had envelopes with the little red and blue, little pattern around the edges.
Yeah.
I saw some poking out of my diaries. I was like, oh yeah, I'm sure those are my letters from my husband.
How did that make you feel when you get a letter from him?
It was so exciting because, like you said, there's no emails, no phones. So it was just always letter, handwritten letters. So yeah, I would I'd really look forward to receiving those letters.
Yeah.
It was confirmation my husband's still alive, and just in case it was the last letter that, you just just took it all in.
So he comes back from operation, and he's gone through that event and that time. He's had to do whatever he has to do. Now he's in the home. So I can imagine at first that would be just an overwhelming. Oh, thank goodness you're safe. You're home. We can't wait to embrace and just be normal again. We can be a family. But did you notice anything different about him? And how did you deal with that?
Yeah, so coming home, you'd have like the honeymoon, home happy, and then, it would go back to normal. And so normal for us it was always up and down, like for Joe. And I knew that when things, he'd be like up, when I say up, happy, like down, grumpy about something. So that was pretty much our whole relationship, was up, down, and I know that when things, well, maybe he didn't actually say, but I could tell that maybe the stress or the pressure of work, he was feeling it when he'd come home and, be grumpy or not want to talk or, be a little bit stressed. So I knew that maybe there was a lot on at work at the time.
I mean, this might be obvious, but did they have an impact? Or what impact did it have with your family?
Oh, yeah, definitely had an impact because, when he was down, which was half of our, marriage, that meant that he would distance himself from us and then, would miss out on that time with him. Or like, you don't really want to talk because he's in like a bad mood, or the kids don't want to go near him because, they know, Dad's a bit grumpy right now, we'll just keep away. And, kids are only young at this stage, so, but, kids are pretty switched on. They can feel, when somebody's, that vibe.
Wow. So how did you deal with that?
The way that I didn't really need to deal with it because when Joe cut you off, you were cut off, like, when, he'd just avoid you, like maybe not come home till later or go sleep in another room, sort of thing. Yeah.
Man, that sounds like a challenging time. I mean, there's a mystique around operators in the SS because of what they do. I mean, there's a whole secrecy thing, and I think that's lend to the mystique, but it has an impact on the families and the partners. And I think for what you've shared so far, Helen, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I suspect it's going to be invaluable to others to hear that, hey, I'm not the only one that's feeling this or have gone through this. Or if you are a partner of a future operator, this is something you can expect.
Yeah.
And you need to find those coping mechanisms not only for your family, but for yourselves and for you as a diary and faith, your faith. I mean, I know Mum went across and was there, so they must have been a welcome relief at times.
Yeah. That was a blessing. To have my mum and my sister come visit.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, that was wonderful. And then lots of tears when they left.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I can imagine. So Joe's in the regiment, and he's already shared that he's got to a point where he's a bit hoha with what's happening at one stage with Encore. So he said, you know what, I'm gone. All right. And he's left. Now you've got this period of time where he's now left the regiment, he's left the army. Was that a similar sort of situation as before? Was he happy, sad, up and down? I mean, because it all has impact on you and the family.
Yeah, he's just one of these gung ho guys, eh? So he's like, got my next job. Like, he was getting ready to, work in Iraq security. So I was like, he's just gone from one dangerous job to another dangerous job. That's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, here we go. So to go through all of that again.
Yeah, I mean, it's a common theme. It's a time away, but it's the danger.
Yeah.
But, and you touched on this before. With the operators will go out and they'll perhaps come back and they won't share things. There's psychs around them. But the whole PTSD and so forth, not to paint that as a label or anything, rather just using it in this context. But I suspect, in some ways, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that may also be you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So the problems that they carry, like it transfers like to your whole family, like it's on everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Helen. I do. That's okay.
Like,
Yeah. So Joe was in Iraq for as a private military contractor for a little while. I mean, that's a different ball game because now there's no military attached to that as such. He's probably without the resources. It's probably a lot more dangerous. But I guess you're in a lot more closer communication.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but still, you know, there was that possibility that he wouldn't come back just because of the nature, you know, again, of the work. And I'm pretty sure he worked there for like 2-3 years, and it was for long, you know, he'd be gone for long periods of time. And he'd come back, he'd be really happy, like, you know, obviously to see your family, but then, you know, when it was time to go back, you could feel that dread, like, you know, he didn't want to go back, but, you know, that was our income. So he probably felt that pressure that he needed to go back. Because he didn't know anything else at the time.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because now it's not. It's not that I've met my goal. I'm in the regiment. I'm in the unit. I've done it. I'm an operator. Now it's like I have to provide for my family. This is my world. This is what I know. I'm good at this space, but at the same time, it's having challenges, and it's pulling us apart in some ways, bring us together in other ways. Yeah. So, I mean, by now you must 3 or 4 kids, perhaps 3 or 4 children.
Yeah.
So your family's growing, and
4 kids.
4 kids. Well.
Yeah. So yeah, that was challenging.
Yeah.
But then just like, you know, because he's always been away, like while the kids have grown up, like him coming back home, and like Bill mentioned it as well, it's, you know, the wives are so independent that they play, you know, mum and dad. So when the dads come home, it's almost like, oh, well, you know, where do I fit in? You know, what do I do? And so I know that he would have felt that.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe a lot of the SAS or ex-SAS guys would have felt that coming back into their home, that, you know, their wives can do without you, like, you know, within the home. And yeah, I don't know, hopefully I didn't make my husband feel like that, but I'm sure I probably did, just because we had such a routine that we followed.
Yeah, because I imagine I know what it's like when you're talking about the little ones, and you got a brood of little ones, and you have routines, you have a rhythm to the home life, and then respectfully, this random guy appears again, you know, and then everyone goes, what?
Yeah.
Who's this guy?
Yeah.
But having to fit in again with your routine, I mean, did that stress you, challenge you? Did you find that like, man, why are you again, why are you doing this?
He was pretty good. I know that you know, I know a lot of the mining wives, they would complain like about their husbands ruining the routines when they come back home. But to be honest, I didn't really have that problem because you know, being military, like ex-military, we're very, you know, we have like a certain schedule that we like to follow. So he would just slot back into, okay, you know, kids go do this, go do that, because, yeah, I mean, that was, yeah, he just slotted right in.
Nice.
But, so like the kids, you know, they'd have like their chores, and, you know, they know that, you know, mum just expects that we'll go and do it. And then when dad comes home, it's a different standard. It's like, oh, dad's home, we better, like, you know, do it like 1,000 times better. Only because, you know, dad has a higher standard. Not that I didn't. Like, my standard was tailored to the kids at their age, whereas Joe's standard, he would expect it to be like a, you know, an adult sort of, standard. And it's like, yeah, no, it doesn't work like that. So we did have a lot of disagreements on raising the kids, like, the standards. Like his standards were way too high. These are just, like little kids.
So, from what you just said, you told him that?
And we would have a lot of our where he would like not talk to me was because I would stick up for the kids. So, like, these are little kids, they don't have the courage to like speak their mind, especially to their dad. Like that, we're quite open, we can talk to each other when dad's not around. But when dad's there, it's like nobody wants to say anything. Like they're scared that they're going to get the answer wrong, or it's not going to be an answer that dad's happy with. So then they might like even start telling lies.
And obviously you're seeing this, and you're seeing this change in your dynamic in your family and things, and that must be challenging.
Yeah, it was challenging. Only because, these are our kids or his kids. And I couldn't understand why he would like treat them real harshly. And when I say harshly, I just mean like the standards that he expected of them was just too high. They're just little kids.
Helen, thank you for sharing. I can see that's evoked or touched some raw emotions with that. It's a challenging time, and I guess that's reflective of the nature of the work, the nature of the individual, but also the commitment that you guys have for each other and trying to make it work. Otherwise it wouldn't be this, I suspect. And this is just me seeing it from the outside. I mean, not being in an environment like that, where it's just high pressure all the time, and then having to live through that. So I'm going to move on from that, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So,
Joe, if you have any other questions, it's fine. I mean, I'm an emotional person anyway, and I'm sure maybe there's lots of other wives that, are like me.
That's okay. Yeah, that's okay. I mean, it's powerful to know that the SAS, rephrase it, operators that have been in the unit in some way, they're not super people. They may be great at their technical roles, but there's the social aspect, there's the family aspect, there's all that helps support them. I mean, Joe did mention that in his conversation that as he was getting ready to move to Iraq and being deployed there, that he felt a sense of peace and calm knowing that you had the family sorted, that everything was sorted. The home front was taken care of to the extent that he was able to focus on his job, and that's what he saw. So having that reassurance as an operator would be just immense, but it comes at a cost. just from what I'm hearing here. So, I guess the question I want to follow up with that, if I may, is of all the challenges that you've gone through, what would be some of the biggest challenges that you've faced?
You mean marriage-wise?
No, perhaps, but more so with him being away. Actually, not even being away, being part of that unit, part of that lifestyle, but then knowing that post that lifestyle, being the unit, and then having to carry some of that stuff for a while, and you're trying to work with him, perhaps, to not soften him, but to soften him, maybe to let him feel like it's okay. So I guess in that context, what would be some of those challenges that you've had to face?
Yeah, so one of the biggest challenges for us is communication. So his, I suppose, lack of or not knowing how to communicate his feelings has been a big, hump in our marriage. If he knew how to communicate, things would have been a lot better than, a lot earlier if he knew how to communicate instead of, bottling everything up. And, there comes a time where it's going to explode, he's going to explode. And there's been, lots of times where he has, gone through that process where he just cannot handle it anymore. And, he just explodes. So that's been the major is communication, not knowing how to communicate. Yeah.
So I guess if we were to flip that in terms of helping others, one of the things to work on would be your communication, particularly with these long periods of absence and so forth, being able to be open and talk through.
Definitely.
May not be easy for some, I guess. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. I've said to him that we need to go to counselling like many times, and because his way of thinking is I don't need to talk to anyone, I can sort this out myself. And I'm like, well, 20 years later, it's obvious that you can't sort it out yourself because we're still in the same situation. Like, not right now, but I would have said that maybe 2 years ago. It's like, you haven't sorted it out. You've tried, but it's not working. We need to do something where it's going to work. It's going to help you. And when you've figured yourself out, then it's going to help the rest of our family, to move forward. Because it's almost like, we go forward, then we stop. It's a stop, start. Because, 20 years ago, you didn't want to go and see, you didn't want to go to get some counselling to help you, So, that's been a challenge. I just feel like he's too prideful. Like, he thinks that he can sort things out on his own when he can't. It's obvious you can't help yourself. Otherwise, we would be in a better position than where we're at, at the moment.
Would it be fair to say that the challenge is in being vulnerable and just letting yourself be open to trying those different things? Because you can see it, I guess, from what you're saying, Yeah, definitely.
And, now that he's, been a bit more open, just within the last 18 months, 2 years, I'm beginning to see, why he feels like he can sort things out on his own. But that's only because he's opened up. Like, had he done that earlier, we would be further ahead than where we are at the moment.
I guess it's the journey. The journey takes its own time and length. But from what I see now, and again, this is just from me from observing from the outside, I can feel that I can actually feel your strength. I can also feel through this interview how you've been just quite raw about that. So I really do appreciate that. Because there's parts of time throughout this, and I'm going, oh, I don't know if I want to ask you any more questions.
Right.
Oh, man.
This.
Oh man, you're crying again. So what the? There you go. Hammer. Oh, okay. So,
That's okay. That's the power of editing. You can
That's
just
the power
edit
of
out
editing.
the other stuff.
Nah, leave all it.
okay, then I better ask this one very important question that Joe has ready for me. How come you only sent Joe one parcel?
Great question.
One. You know what? I don't actually remember that. I think you made that up.
Oh, you mean you got heaps of parcels?
You made that one up. Yeah, no, I was laughing actually. I listened to the podcast on that part. I was like, well, you just said you wanted muesli bars, so that's what I did. I sent you muesli bars. Like, what more did you want? If you wanted more, why don't you just say? Like, don't beat around the bush. Don't think that I've got like a magic crystal ball where I can read your mind and anything that you want. Like, that's such an answer he would give to us, because it's like, well, if that's what you asked for, then that's what you get. Like, if you wanted more, then say you wanted more.
So you were channeling your inner Joe.
Yeah, I know. It's like, oh, yeah, you just didn't receive like the other 20 like huge boxes. They must have got lost, like, gotten lost on the way.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, gosh. So yeah, because when you shared that was kind of funny. And I guess I just want to get back, touch on a few more things, and he's left, he's gone out now, and then he shared in his interview that there was a long period of time where he felt a bit lost. He jumped from job to job, and thing. So I mean, you must have seen him at his most excited. Oh, I got a new job, or I'm trying to try a new venture, and then, oh, I'm all hard with this, or I feel down about this. Again, what was happening in your space, in your mindset? I mean, how did you continue to support by supporting yourself?
Yeah. The thing about Joe is, I know that he will get a job. Like 9 out of 10 times, when he goes for jobs, he almost always gets them, always gets shortlisted. So that wasn't a problem, but just with the amount of jobs, so like he'd probably have, I don't know, it feels like a new job every year. But then, he's the sort of person, if he's not happy with something, then he'll just leave. Like, I'm not going to stay here. I'll go find another job. And that's what he did. Like, he just did that for the next 20 years. But, he would be happy. But then, like I say, there'd be something that he wasn't happy with in the job, then he'd leave. But I knew that his heart was, he wanted to be back in the East East. That's how I felt anyway. Maybe he was comparing every job to, it's not as, he wasn't getting anything out of. Well, I suppose, I don't know, maybe he was comparing every job to being in the SAS, and maybe that's why they didn't work. Because, his expectations and it just were too high. Like, I don't know.
That's interesting. You've said this a number of times already. About expectations being so high and the standards being so high. Especially with your kids, or like with jobs and things. I mean, did you find like sometimes during this time period that there was a degree of walking on eggshells? Did you find that was something that, but it may have just instinctively happened?
Sorry, John. Can you just explain that question again?
Oh, so what I mean by that's okay. What I mean by that is like, okay, he's feeling a bit hoha today, or he's standing way up here, and go, okay. So I have to walk around eggshells. I know that kids did that. I mean, because you've just said that. But what about you? Did you feel like you were doing that as well?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So the whole mood in the house would change. Like, we'd know, everybody knew, when Dad wasn't in a good mood, we'd just let him have his space. Yeah, so that was just normal. That was normal for us. We did that all the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, what changed that? Do you think?
Well, starting the podcast up has really opened him up to being just open to communication and just being really open with me, sharing with me a lot of things that he kept to himself, and just him being able to release that has helped him to move forward. Yeah, has really helped him to move forward, and he's just a totally different person, which is nice. Like, nobody's walking on any eggshells like for the last almost year. Great.
Oh, so you can tease him then.
Yeah. And, like, our kids are like more open.
Yeah.
They speak to him freely. Like, whereas before it's like, no, why would I want to tell Dad that? Like, they just didn't really talk to their dad. I mean, they'd be like, hey son, how was your day? Yeah, it was good. And then I feel like that was it. That was as far as it got.
Yeah.
But yeah, no sort of like conversations or anything.
Hey, maybe let's explore that for a second. So, all these events have led up to here, right? Led up to this time. Now, the start of the podcast, I kind of remember this because I got there was a period of time where I had no comms from Joe for a while. I think one text for a number of months, and I would occasionally send him a text every now and then, but just to keep in touch. And then out of the blue, he sends me either a text or an email. I'll have to check if I really wanted to, but just random. But I could tell by the tone of the text or the email. I'm sure it's a text. I can tell by the text that something had changed.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was. I could look at it and go, that's different words. That's a different language. Something's up. And it might sound a bit weird, but it was true.
No. Yep.
You know what I
I know what you mean.
And then I remember having a conversation with him. Yeah, and we talked through some things, and what he was feeling and so forth. But I do remember him recalling that Helen said to me, "Why don't you go back and listen to these podcasts or a podcast?" And I guess it started that journey. So I guess you can claim credit for this, Helen. This part, yeah. So I guess where I'm getting to with this is where you are now, with all of these experiences leading up to and all the raw things that you've shared, is now pretty much where you hoped that you wanted to be, say, 20 years ago. Or
Yeah,
10 years
definitely.
ago.
Yeah, definitely. And I think maybe for a lot of the military wives, like maybe their husbands are like mine, where they keep a lot of things in. And I think if they're when they're able to, well, as soon as they're able to communicate openly, with their wives or whoever, it's going to help them move forward. Like, it's going to be such a huge blessing, and it'll make such a huge difference in their homes when their husbands or partners are able to be a bit more open.
Yeah.
Like Owen has.
Yeah, I get that. All right, cool. I guess there's just a few more things that I wanted to talk about and just ask. And as I get to the point where we start to wrap up this conversation, it has been enlightening actually for me, because I know with my children growing up, they would see you guys and see the happy space. That's what they'll see. I mean, because you do, your family, you see the happiness, and they'll see Joe as Uncle Joe or Uncle Chocolate, as Lehigh, my oldest daughter, would say, Uncle Chocolate, because he always had chocolate around him and stuff.
Still does.
Yeah, it still does. Yeah, and then they would also when they got a bit older, they recognised that he was doing something. I don't know if glamorous is the right word, but it was something that was different. Yeah, it wasn't a 9 to 5. It was just something different. Of course, and then things changed. With the job and so forth. But I guess from all those experiences, what would you change if you could, with all the things that you've experienced in the last 20 years or so?
What would I change? That's a tricky one. I mean, I've often said to people that I'm grateful for the challenges that I have, because without them, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. And, I know these people that roll their eyes when I say that, but, the challenges that my husband and I and our family have gone through, they've only just made us stronger individually and as a family. So I wouldn't, I see it as a blessing. I see it as a blessing. It's, it not only helps me, but the experiences that I have as, an ex-military wife, and, I don't even have to be an ex-military wife, but it gives me wisdom, and that I'm able to share with other people my experiences, so it can help them, that they know that, someone else has been through what they're going through now. And, I was able to get through it. And if I'm able to impart some sort of, counsel to them to help them just, move one step forward, then that's a good thing for me anyway, to help someone else, to be able to help someone else.
Beautiful. I like that. That's wise. That's very wise. And if, as you look at your children, do you see any of your children like very similar to Joe, the way Joe is? Do you see those traits in it, or do you think they're more closely aligned to you? Do you think? I do see it in my kids. Some of them are quite hard on themselves, they have a high expectation in certain areas of their life. Again, as parents, we just have to counsel them and say, it's okay, it's all right to fail, because you can just get back up and just keep, as long as you're moving forward, you're progressing. And so it's trying to teach them that, you don't have to go at 110 miles an hour and always have to, have a win at the end. It's all right to fall over and get up and, continue on. You can still win the race. You can still win the race. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. That's actually quite profound. You can still win the race. And I think that's something that perhaps in Bill's interview he shared, I forget the exact quote, but it's something along the lines of, it's not if you start, it's when you finish, or something similar to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's about the journey. All right, Helen, I do really, really appreciate the time. I appreciate your rawness. There's been a lot here to unpack, actually. And I think before we move on with this, I think it's probably a good place to say for everyone, for those that are experiencing some of the things that Helen has shared, and we're talking things that can be traumatic, the challenges that there is help available. So there's professional help available. I'm sure there's other things that are available to people. I mean, this is not something that you have to bear alone. I guess that just raised a thought in my head. How did you deal with being alone? So, I mean, at the start you're saying, I had no friends, but at the end, before you guys left Perth, you've got friends. Did you eventually come out of your comfort zone in that sense, or?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So because Joe wasn't in the army anymore,
yes,
I was able to just be myself and just be open with my friends. And just having friends is so important. And that's one of the. I was just reflecting with Joe last night, and when he was in the SAS, I specifically said to him, when he was looking for a house for us, because they have military houses, I was like, I don't want to be in the housing area, so you have a military housing area, And the only reason why I said that was because when I was in Linton, we'd, like a lot of the married, members of the Defence Force, I'd hear them say things like, this person was gossiping about, it was almost as if like all the, like being in the housing area wasn't a good thing. It's like, everybody knows your business. So I specifically said to Joe, make sure we don't have a house in the housing area. So they did have houses, military houses dotted around, and so we got one of those. But I think that was a downfall for me because, when he was away, like obviously I didn't go out of the house and speak to any of the neighbours. And that neighbourhood was a really nice neighbourhood. Like all the parents would be out in the street with their kids, and then here I am sitting in the house because I want to avoid all those questions. Whereas if I had been in a military like housing base, it would have been beneficial for me because I would have been able to go out there and talk to all the other wives, and it would have been a benefit for me, I reckon. So I know that the wives that are in the military housing, they're able to talk freely and openly, and I'm sure they probably really support each other really well as well. So that's something I missed out on. So if I could do it again, I would. I'd be like, I want to live in there. Like I can, vent with all these other wives. We can vent together about our annoying husbands. And I'm sure they probably would have shared with me, my husband gets grumpy and tells our kids off all the time too.
I can imagine. Oh man, he repacked his pack again. All right.
I know. Yeah. But I think that that support is so important. Yeah.
So having that support, and it's about having that help, about communication. There's all those real powerful things that you share. I mean, it is safe to say that there's the operator, and then there's the operator. And I think you are, as you mentioned this a lot earlier. You're one and the same. You come together and shared these experiences, but what he shares or what he experiences, you experience. It's just in a different context, but it's still valid. I don't think we can disregard that in any shape or form. That would be wrong. And I think that's important for everyone to recognise that while we look at some of the cool things that the operators do, there's the other side around that wouldn't happen as effectively if the support mechanisms were at home, and then dealing with that after. So it's really powerful. I guess my last question then, Helen, or last few questions to get to wrap up would be, what would be 3 pieces of advice that you could probably leave with others that are in your situation, or maybe in your situation at a future stage, that are partnered either with an operator or a future operator, or somebody that will work in a situation that is, we'll call it high stress?
Yeah. My advice would be, and this is just personally, like if you do have a husband that is in the SAS, that you want to make sure that you have really good support around you. Like if your family's not there, then the military family, and like I said, if I could do it again, I would want to be living in the military housing, just so that I would have that extra support and be able to talk to people instead of being locked in your home because you want to avoid questions. So all those wives, they all know what's going on. So if you had that support, if I could have that support, I would have, been with those wives, talking with them, and sharing stuff together, because I'm sure most of our husbands are the same. Like they don't want to talk, whereas at least you can talk with the wives about what's going on in your homes, and I'm sure it would all be the same, very similar challenges that they're having. And when women get together, you can really counsel and uplift and strengthen each other. Because you're all going through the same thing.
Shared experiences.
Yeah, definitely. That's one thing. Another thing would be just to keep busy. Obviously, if you've got kids, you're going to be busy. But when those kids go to sleep, maybe your mind's on your husband and all that sort of stuff. So I think just keeping busy, find a hobby to do, because so that your mind is not just always worrying about, if your husband's okay or whatever. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes I know for me, it can just really consume all your time if you're just always worrying or thinking about your husband or your partner. So, finding a hobby. And another thing, I'm just thinking, I don't know if this is a good thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway, is I feel like a lot of military wives, I'm just speaking for myself, is that there's a high possibility that your marriage or your partnership will end. And a lot of the partners, it's likely or maybe that they are a full-time mum, and if they were to separate or divorce or whatever, they're going to have nothing to fall back on. So I would encourage the partners, make sure that you've done some study, or you've got some work to fall back on if things don't go the way that you would like them to go. So just being prepared. Like for me, I've studied law, and I've always wanted to do law, but just within the last sort of 10 years, I was like, I don't know where this marriage is going, just with all the ups and downs, and I need to be prepared that, if something does go wrong or not go wrong, if we go our separate ways, that I've got something to fall back on. So that would be advice. Just, make sure that you are self-reliant, that, if things don't go the way you would hope, that you've got something to go to be able to provide for yourself.
Wow. That is strong advice. Awesome. So not only support, but communication, working together, but having that, I get what you mean, because when you say have a plan B, it's almost like you're halfway out the door, but that's not what you're talking about. It's just putting yourself in a position where you can be self-reliant, and I think that's a better phrase than think of it in any other context.
Yeah.
Right.
But not only that, sorry, Brian, but just being prepared that if your husband comes back and mentally or physically they're not all there, then you're going to have to step up and help to provide for your family.
This is true, because I guess one of the things that we haven't touched on yet, we have indirectly throughout these podcasts in the series, is the stress and strain of this, not only in the front lines, but also at home, and that real stress and strain. It's a real tangible thing. I can feel it today. I felt it this morning with you, Helen, and again, I'm really appreciative and respectful of that you've shared, and you've been so raw and open with that. So, being aware of that and knowing that, hey, you may, as the partner, need to step into that gap in some way and fill it. Maybe for a period of time, or maybe forever. You never know. Yeah. All right. Well, Aotearoa, you've heard a wonderful, raw, emotional, real conversation with a wife of a former operator, a man who I'm proud to know and to call my brother-in-law and see the wonderful things he's done, but acknowledge that it has been a journey for him, but more especially with regards to this interview, a journey for Helen and her family. And we can see it, and we felt that. It has touched me. But I think it was important that we were able to share this one person at a time, one story at a time, to help others become better. It's not just leaving people alone. This is coming around and supporting others. This is about bringing them through these shared experiences. And Helen has shared that. And again, I'm grateful for that. She has shared her story to be able to help others know that they're not the only ones.
Yeah.
They're not by themselves. Yeah, and that you can get through it. And I loved, Helen, how you shared that your diary and your faith were just mainstays for such a long time, and still are. But at that time when it was, let's just say, a little bit darker, that it was your mainstay that you can go through, especially if you weren't around other military-wise, that you could vent and share experiences and so forth. Also thankful that you talked about family, you know, your mum and your sisters, and how much love and support that they gave you and your kids, because you got beautiful family, beautiful kids. I mean, I'm grateful that they're my nephews and nieces, because they're cool, man. They're just so much love. They're just wonderful children. But you can see that all these experiences are shaping them, but they're shaping them in the direction now that's turning, or has turned to such a positive, uplifting way. It's just incredible to see that journey, which I never saw before. I really didn't see it before. Yeah, and it was just now that you're sharing that story, it's really, really clearer about where it's all happening. I'm also grateful that the counsel that you've given to partners, whether they're male or female, regardless, partners, that you need to be able to prepare yourself in some way, yeah, because you may need to step into the void if something happens. Yeah, let's face it, the role that these people play is dangerous. Right? The world in which they live in can be dangerous. Right? So, in that regard, Helen, are there any final thoughts, comments that you would like to leave?
Yeah, just, today, and just the way that today is, people have more access to help, like mental health. So just make use of it. It's there. So yeah, reach out and grab it. Husband and wife. Together.
Kia ora. That's awesome. Aotearoa, you've just heard Helen Hotai. My name is Brian Osman. I have had the privilege to have this conversation with Helen. She has been raw and real. So without further ado, please have a listen. Please listen and take on board some of these experiences. Reach out to Helen if you need to, and I'm sure Helen will be open to that in some way. You'll be able to find her media presence on Instagram and on YouTube channel. The Diary Reader. Sorry, I tried to think of the full title. Is it the Diary Reader? Helen Hotai, the Diary Reader?
It's Helen Hotai, the Diary Reader, but it's not really me. It's actually Joe that's like I'm reading all my diaries now.
That's awesome. Is there any other method that people may contact you? Any other way?
Yeah, maybe I'll just give you my links after.
Sure. Yes, and we'll put that in the post as well. So that, really appreciate that. So Aotearoa, you have heard a raw and real story of behind the scenes operator Helen Hotai. So respectfully, who dares wins. Kia ora.
Thank you, Brian.